welcome back to the Corgi Town USA podcast season 2. We are so glad that you stayed tuned and came back for this season. And we have so much exciting content. And I'm just trying to get it out to you in a timely manner instead of all at once because I'm so excited about it. But today is Chuckle's birthday.
It is.
Yeah, he's 3 today.
So can you explain to people why, if they've watched the last few podcasts, it remains Chuckle's birthday?
Because we're recording today.
Yes.
And
people might get confused. That's
it's a birthday month.
Well, it is a birthday month. Everyone should celebrate a birthday month.
Yeah. So really in my house, every day is their birthday.
She may spoil them a little bit.
I might spoil them a little
Just a
bit.
little.
Anyway, so we're celebrating. That's what all this celebratoriness is about. But as always, I'm Candy Kemp. This is Chuckles the Spokescorgan birthday boy for the last several episodes. Yes. And Kat Cohen, our executive producer.
Hi. And I have with me Wiggin, the honorary corgi. He is an Australian cattle dog. And Digby, my very own little corgi boy.
Legitimate corgi.
Legitimate corgi.
Instead of an illegitimate.
Instead of an illegitimate. Complete with big ears, barking, and corgitude.
Corgitude. Well, as we're talking about corgitude.
Yes.
We've talked a little bit about training and about training of the breed specifically and their personality and their proclivities and how you work with that. And we had a very special guest last season that we're going to bring back today. If you all remember, or you want to reference season 1, we had Alyssa, dog mom of Maslow the Trick Corgi, whom you can follow on TikTok and Instagram. And she's a professional trainer. And so training Maslow kind of got her out in front of all the corgi people. And she has started her own podcast about corgi training. So we had some questions for her because I feel like I'm pretty good at training corgis, but we can always learn.
I'm not.
We can always learn so much. So maybe we should bring her on, should we?
We should bring her on.
All right, let's bring her on. Welcome back, Alyssa.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How are you and your brood doing?
Oh, just as good as always. Every day is different, right?
That's the beauty of
That
it.
is.
Every day is a joy.
Yeah, everything's so exciting. That's the corgi life.
Right.
Corgi lifestyle.
Yep.
Well, we wanted to talk about dog sports today. And about you were so kind to give us kind of what the pros and cons were of training corgis last season and kind of your history and background and why you kind of like working with the breed and what makes them a challenge and also what makes them easy.
Yes.
Among both of those. But we talked a little bit about agility and things like that because corgis are a working breed and they're a herding breed. So some of these active, engaging activities are great for the breed. But I wanted to ask about that. So let's talk about dog sports. And we wanted to ask you, other than patience, of course, what does it take to train agility in your words?
Yeah, so agility is something that I find a lot of corgi owners instantly go to because their dogs like running and jumping, which is great, right? Obviously, I think agility is one of the most popular dog sports out there. So it's a lot of it's what people know, right? It's running and jumping. Their dogs love running and jumping. So they're like, I should get my dog into agility. And I'm all for that, right? It makes sense. But the little side note of that is that agility also requires a lot of obedience, a lot of obedience. And because if you think about it, your dog has to be able to listen to you off leash in strange environments.
Corgis listen?
Exactly. That's the point. See,
I keep looking at my little boy going, oh, I guess we're not doing agility.
Really?
Yeah.
So they have to listen to you while being as far away from you as possible, running high speeds because you want it to be fast, right? You want them to run. And in general, that's just really hard for any dog to do, right? So there's a lot more that goes into agility than just my dog likes running and jumping. Because if you think about it, it's not that hard to teach a dog to jump. It's not that hard to teach a dog to tunnel or to go over the dog walk or anything like that, right? Like those things usually are pretty easy to train. A lot of the training comes with training the off-leash skills and doing the multiple obstacles, and again, running at extremely fast speeds because they're an extremely fast breed. And especially if you're getting into the sport to tire them out, you want them to run at those extremely fast speeds, right?
Yeah.
And I have found that 99% of the time when Maslow messes up, it's because of me. So this sport, there's a lot of responsibility on me and my handling.
That's what I've heard. It's not
Yes.
so much training the dog as it is training the human.
Right. You know, you got to make sure that you're sending them to the obstacle with enough time. You're not getting in their path as much. There's a lot of like, they've got to switch sides for you. You got to make sure that they're on a good side that's going to get them through the course as fast as possible. So it's a lot of footwork for you. And it's a lot of running, which, you know, I'm not really a big fan of. So, right? Like I got into the sport so that he could run. This was about his exercise, not my exercise.
So he could run and you didn't have to.
Right.
Exactly. Like, because in an ideal world, I don't want to have to worry about that.
So is there armchair agility where you could just sit and sort of
Armchair agility.
You know, maybe at the really advanced stages, you know? Yeah.
Oh my
but,
gosh.
you know, in the beginning, when you're just trying to teach them to go through every obstacle you say, you're basically running next to them.
right?
You know, the intended goal being like, okay, but do it 15 feet away from me so you don't have to run as much.
Right.
But definitely in the beginning, you guys are both going to get your steps in.
Right. Well, and so
You know?
I imagine the recall
Yes.
command is very, very important here because you don't want them to get away from you, especially in an open space.
Yes, recall, and we practice a lot of shadow handling is what it's called. So he'll just walk next to me without a leash and just on the right side, and then we'll switch him over to the left side. So he's got to be able to walk well on both sides of me, and we'll change up the speed. So I'll do just normal pace, really, really slow pace. Sometimes I'll be running, and just working on him being next to me and really reinforcing that behavior next to me. So
that's
lots
so
of
disciplined.
obedience.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's such a disciplined. I mean, I'm thinking to my corgis that I've had that, I mean, Lilo, you know, was kind of cool to do whatever, but I mean, I don't think that Zelda would have been like that. I had a rescue named Zelda, and she was like a wild animal. She had a really bad background, and they didn't ever engage with her. But she was a door darter.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime anybody came in or out, it was like, watch the door, watch the door, watch the door. And I worked with her and hadn't had that problem before. Of course, you always want to watch the door because what I worry about is the distraction. If they get like Puckles is pretty well, he'll stay pretty close to me, but if he gets distracted, there's a possibility that he could get away.
Right. Well, in my backyard, the distraction is, you know, the rabbits and the quails and
You're on a mountain.
I'm on a mountain. Yeah. And the distraction I found out one day was the coyote that came running through my backyard that Digby wanted to chase after.
Well, he was chasing a rabbit the other day, ran off. I was, because there's a road right there. You got him to come back, though. He did recall to you.
Yes, he did recall to me.
Anyway, we're segueing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's disciplined. Yeah. That's a lot of discipline.
Well, and you bring up distractions. I mean, especially if you're going into competition agility, there's going to be other dogs around the ring too. Right. And sometimes there's going to be a dog running in the ring right next to you.
Yeah.
So being able to focus on you around distractions, especially with them being a herding breed, if there's another dog running around, that's a lot of practice. I think we all know.
Yeah.
And that I noticed something running.
I noticed that with Digby and his buddy Wiggin, is that he now has come to the point where he wants to herd Wiggin. So if I
poor Wiggin.
Yes, poor Wiggin. And if I if I yell at Wigan for don't all be commenting like what a horrible human being I am.
I'm going to.
I'm like, Wigan, don't eat the poop. Wigan, for the love of all that is holy, do not eat the poop. That is the yelling that happens. Okay. That is the yelling that happens in this household. All the neighbors know that. And my joke, because Wigan was a competitive agility dog, was that, so I guess all that the other dog owners had to do was get their dogs to poop and put it in the path, and Wigan would just stop and eat the poop.
It's just salacious for him.
I usually threaten to my dogs. I'm like, I kept the receipt, so just letting you know.
You will go back.
You will go back.
I should try that.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. I threaten to send Digby back to other mommy. I'm like,
yeah,
you
that's
will go,
a threat at my house.
Yeah, you will go to other mommy. Well,
yeah,
because
like
other
I kept
mommy
the
is
receipt.
stricter. Yes, other mommy is stricter than me.
Well, yes, I'm stricter, but I mean, my place is pretty good if you're a corgi.
Yeah,
yeah. No, I've said that to. I mean, Hammer's really never misbehaved. But Booger, I've said it to her. I'm like, do you want to go to shelter? You want to see how the other half lives?
I'll either tell him I kept the receipt, or I'm like, at least pretend like you're trained. At least act like it.
Can you
for
play
2
the part?
seconds? Just for 2 seconds, just play the part.
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
yeah.
Like chemical cheese. Play the part. You don't have to be real. Just act like
Get into character. That's all I'm asking.
So, other than training, what it takes is physical prowess. So are we going to call it that? The ability to run at first? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Are you talking about for the dogs or the people, or both?
For the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dogs I'm not so worried about. But
so that extra 10, 15 pounds of COVID fat ass that you may have gotten.
Cat's over here making me edit out curse words.
Well, it's not really a curse word.
It's more fun that way, right?
It's more fun that way.
Fat Heine.
Fat Heine.
There you go.
So this actually might be a good episode for you if you never compete with your dog. Seriously, if you never, who among us is not complaining about COVID weight? Really, who among us is not complaining about COVID weight? So
for the 100th time, the thoughts and opinions of Kat Cohen aren't necessarily reflected in the thoughts and feelings of Corgi Town, USA.
If you are thinking to yourself, what fun thing can I do? What fun exercise can I do other than, the 100 sit-ups in the morning and the 100 sit-ups at night that I do? You don't have to compete with agility, do you? I mean, you don't necessarily train to compete.
All of agility is for fun, right? All dog sports are for fun. You can choose to be a little extra like I am and compete, but all of it is just about having fun with your dog.
Yeah.
The dogs don't know what the ribbons mean.
Right.
No, this is true.
And if you do, if you're listening to Kat and she's triggered you into some sort of episode of I need to go to the gym, but you decide to take up a training, agility training, call Alyssa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. She's the expert here. That's why we brought her on. So since we're talking about it, since we're talking about agility training, in your words, I mean, we all have an idea of what that is and thoughts and videos we've seen, but in your words, specifically, what is agility training?
Oh man, specifically, what is it? It's a lot of just, like I said, obedience. It's a lot of obedience, and it's more about training the human. Training the correct handling skills.
Right.
And think of it as advanced obedience. Really, I would say agility training is advanced obedience with some flair.
And that is definitely words from the mouth of the expert.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody thinks of it in those terms when they think of agility.
Advanced obedience with some flair.
With some flair.
With some flair.
That sounds very much, like if you think about it, that's exactly what it is. It's obedience on the part of the dog. It's obedience on the part of the human, of the, the parents.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it now. The opinions of, Kat Cohen are not necessarily the opinions of.
Oh no, here we go again.
I said it the last time Alyssa was on, and that is sometimes you see a child in the store and you think, the same exact thing about the parents.
Yeah.
The fun continues, dear viewer, dear listener. Thank you for hanging with us. So anyway, our
I love a hot take. I love a hot take.
we got that's all ours. The
That's all it is.
whole episode is a
If
hot
you
take.
own corgis, you have nothing but hot takes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or my whole life is a hot take.
Yeah, right.
From birth to now. So if we're talking about agility training, I love that. It's advanced obedience. Are there other types of running, jumping training? We talked a little bit about, and I'm just segue into a question I had about, the other sports. Fly ball. We talked about barn hunt last season a little bit, and you explained that to us with the rats and finding that. And so are there other types of training? So let's say that someone's watching, listening, and they hear this and they're like, I would love to get my dog into agility. I'm going to train in and see what Alyssa said, or tune in and see what Alyssa says. And then they hear that there's a lot of running and a lot of steps yourself. And then, well, maybe they're not up for that. Maybe that's not really their cup of tea, but they would still like to get their dog into some sort of active activity. Are there others that you could recommend for those reasons?
Oh, for sure. And it all depends on what exactly you're wanting. If you're wanting physical exercise to keep your dog in shape versus something to give them a job and get them exhausted. I always have, here's my hot take. I think mental stimulation is more exhausting for dogs than physical exercise.
Makes sense.
You can think about it as like when you get home from work, you might have not been running around all day, but you were using your brain all day. So you're exhausted.
Right.
If you come back from like a 2-mile run, yeah, your muscles might be sore. But for me, like my endorphins are going. I'm awake. I'm ready to go. Right.
I've never been on a 2-mile run, so I don't.
Okay. So if you've been on like maybe a 10-minute walk, no.
Right.
Same thing.
But if you do that physical exercise, you're theoretically more awake and you have those endorphins running versus coming home after a mentally exhausting day. So it all kind of depends on what you're wanting. If you're wanting just something to tire your dog out, maybe your dog's already in good shape. I mentioned it in the last episode. I really like barn hunt because it does use a lot of their brain. It's pretty easy to get into. There's not a lot of training necessarily because they're just using their nose. Every dog knows how to use their nose. You don't have to train them how to use their nose. And most dogs enjoy doing it. Nothing. You don't have to train an advanced signal unless your dog's Maslow. But other than that, most dogs already have a signal of like, I found this rat, because they're super excited to find it. They're still jumping. They're still tunneling. There's still some obedience because they can't, urinate in the ring or anything like that. They
Didn't you tell us Maslow did that?
Yes. Isn't he great?
He's a rebel.
That's why I said unless your dog is Maslow. He's not like other dogs. No. So if you're just looking for something to tire your dog out mentally, that's always a good one to go to because you're also not walking around, right? Like you're not running around. You're just kind of staying in one place. If you're really wanting to do something like agility, but maybe all that running around isn't really what you want, I usually tell people to try fly ball. So fly ball is there's 4 jumps and then they do a swimmer's turn off a box that's spring loaded that will release a tennis ball. They grab the ball and they run the 4 jumps back. So it's something.
I think Chuckles would love that because
it's something you're not running. You're just holding the dog and the dog runs forward, does their job and runs back. And it's a relay race. So once they come back, then their teammate goes. And then you have some dogs in the next ring or in like the next lane next to you doing their thing. So it's like a relay race, like I said. So you want your team to be the fastest. So you just hold them there, they run, they come back, the next person goes, and you hope that your team finishes before the other team.
So if someone wanted to, they hear this and they think, wow, I would love to get started with fly ball. What resources, other than of course contacting you, which we recommend, what resources would you recommend somebody just getting started to maybe if it's just quick training around the house to get their dog primed or to see little things, how would you suggest somebody get started, I guess is the short question.
I mean, you can definitely look for fly ball clubs in your area, and see if there's a competitive team in your area if that's something you're interested in. Again, all of dog sports is just for fun, right? Like that's all it is it's for fun.
Yeah.
If in general with all of these dog sports, I usually tell people to work on forward focus. So what I will do is like for dinner, I will kind of hold them back, put their bowl in front, and you release them when they're looking at their bowl. And so that they're going to shoot forward ahead of you to go get their food. Or you can do the same thing with a toy, kind of hang on to their hips, throw the toy ahead. You know, you can tell them like, are you going to get it? I like to hype them up. Like, you can do it. You can get it. You're going to get your toy. You're going to get your food, yada, yada, yada. And as soon as they're looking forward, you can release and go forward. So it's kind of like working on them being confident running away from you, which isn't really easy for a lot of dogs to do, right? Dogs are our companions. They want to be next to you. Well, I mean, unless you're Maslow too.
Digby likes to stay near. He'll run away, but he likes to come right back to me. So
yeah, he has good recall with you.
Yes, he does have good recall with me. And I just want to make a comment because you were talking about, you know, some of these training things and everything for the dogs. And so when you were on the show last season, I really got into, okay, let me do one thing. Like, let me train him with one thing. And that's really all I've been able to do. But with their bowl, and I will put the food down for the two of them. And then they sit and they look at me and I will talk and I will yammer on. And then I will say manja, which is Italian for eat. I'm trying to train my dogs to be bilingual.
Digby is bilingual.
Digby is bilingual. Yeah. So is actually now. So is Wigan. And then they will go. But here's the thing that you just said, and that's why I went, Digby, I notice, will look away from the bowl. Like he can't look at the bowl and not go forward. And he drools. It's very funny. He drools. But neither one of them will look at the bowl. So that's going to be like the next step is look at the bowl.
And you can put a command to it, like, because that's Maslow too. We had him very trained. I put the bowl down. He looked at me. I put a treat down. He looked at me, and that was his thing. So it was difficult for him to break when we started fly ball, and he needed to run forward and look forward. Right. So we put a command to it, depending on what you already have in your repertoire of words. We use
Italian, yes.
Yeah. We use see, but a lot of people use look. And so you can put a command to it, put the bowl down, say your command, and then just wait for them to look at it and then release. It also helps if you physically look at the bowl to kind of give them an idea. So you can kind of have them in your peripheral vision. You look at the object you want them to look at. So they're kind of like, why is mom looking at this thing? And then you can release them. It kind of gives them a little hint.
So I'm looking at the bowl now. They're normally looking at me. This time I'm looking at the bowl and I'm saying, look, and look. And when they look at it and they have not gone for it, I can then say eat.
Correct.
And then they'll go, okay,
yep.
I will try that.
You can then release them. Yeah.
And I'll report back.
So let us know.
Yeah.
That, I think, to me, that gaze seems like that would be a little bit more difficult with training. And I say that just based on my experience with my own dogs, that, you know, Chuckles is pretty in tune to what's mom doing and I'll follow lead. But if he's ball obsessed, like he's very food motivated, but he's ball obsessed and he will pick a ball over food. So if you have a ball in your hand, I'm thinking about your instructions here for things like fly ball. If we're changing gaze, that's going to be difficult because I don't think he would have any problem looking forward away from me if that's where the ball is going, because he doesn't care about where I am until he gets the ball to bring it back to me.
Well, I mean, that's fine too, because if you're talking fly ball, that's what we want. We want him to go and get the ball anyways. Right.
Yeah, which is why I think he would be good at it. But I think that I would think that gaze would be a little bit harder to, I mean, you're kind of trying to, some part of that's instinct. It's one thing to train the behavior versus I guess it's attention, right? Because you're training attention. Directing.
It all depends because eye contact with dogs is not a normal behavior. That's something that we like as humans. Yeah. And dog behavior, when dogs stare at each other, it's actually considered rude. So
Right.
it's definitely something that we've trained into them. So I think that's why we find it a little weird, because everyone, when they have a puppy, they're like, we're going to work on them focusing on me and looking at me. And so there's the concept of if they're not if they're not looking at you, then they're not focused on you, or they're not listening to you, when that's not necessarily the case. You know, they can still be listening to you, but not necessarily looking at you. Right. Which is why I like to put the command to it.
Right.
Or I give them the hint of like, I'm looking at something, you know,
Right.
you should look at it too.
Yeah.
And it does take time, especially if they've learned as puppies to like look at you for the next command, which isn't a bad thing. But so if you put that command on it, it does kind of help bridge the gap a little bit. And you can have different commands where, like for me, when I say focus, it's like, oh, okay, I need to look at mom. If I'm holding him by his hips, obviously that's a sign that like he's looking forward, and I can say see, you know, or if I'm looking at something and I say see, then that's a sign for him that he needs to look forward. So you can also add a command to it to help bridge the gap more for us really than for them.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because you're working with training the command in conjunction with what their instinct is.
Correct.
Which I guess is pretty much all training.
Yeah.
I just took a very complex concept and watered it down, but yeah.
And they will learn over time. If you set them in a certain position that's very obvious that they're going forward, then they need to look forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
I love it. So if someone wants to do some of these, now agility training is expensive, right? Is that where some of these other types of things might be good alternatives?
So in general, dog sports are expensive. That's just the unfortunate reality. I wish it wasn't the case, because I think a lot more people would get into it. Yeah. So there are some dog sports that people can get into that aren't as expensive. They can look into disc dog, for example. So that's Frisbee League. And you get points for however far they catch, you know, the Frisbee. For corgis, like you can throw it in the air, but like rollers are fine too. So you can just roll it on the ground and they can catch it that way. In my experience, the only payment for that is just we help cover costs for like the field rental. But even then the cost is like maybe half of what my other costs are for dog sports. And even then, I don't know as much about this because I haven't done it, but there's a virtual component too. So if you have enough space in your own backyard or a field that you know of, you know, you can also do it that way as well. So you can look for a disc dog league in your area, or disc dog. Yeah. Or if, you know, you don't want to do any of that, you don't really want to pay anything, you can also look into trick training, which I think is an underrated dog sport. I say that slightly biased because we are known as Maslow the Trick Corgi.
Yes. If you want to get into trick training, then you contact Alyssa at Maslow the Trick Corgi on her Instagram or TikTok. Yeah.
We post a lot of tutorials on trick training your dog, and I can talk your ear off about it, but we got into trick training before we got into any other dog sport. And I noticed a lot of the stuff that I taught him has helped in a lot of his dog sports. For example, I'm sorry, he's being stupid cute right now. He's being very distracting. He's like rolling around on his back doing that stupid cute corgi thing.
I love it. Love rolling.
Right? Anyways, so I had him trained on a wobble board. So if you don't know what it is, it's like a circle. There's a little half ball on the bottom, and it's just kind of moves all over the place.
Very hard to do squats on.
Yes.
Use your
I was going to say, if you've done physical therapy at all, you probably know what it is. It's the exact same thing for dogs. I got him used to a lot of that. Got him used to having his paws on an exercise ball or like a balance disc, all of these uneven objects, so that by the time he was learning how to do the teeter in agility, it wasn't as big of a deal as it would have been for most dogs, because he's already done a lot of the work of things moving that, you know, when he's on them, or things that are unbalanced. So by the time we got to the teeter, he was like, okay, cool, got it. next.
Yeah.
Next thing.
Like, I remember this.
I know this. Yeah, I know this. You know?
Man, that's so fun.
So, and in general, just working with your dog and having fun with your dog is going to help you bond with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Doing all these tricks with him, it also helped me know, like, when he needs a break. It helped our communication. I can say, oh, he's better at this kind of stuff than he is at this kind of stuff. Or I can say, oh, he's having this kind of a day.
Right.
I also have learned what his favorite tricks are. So sometimes when I need to amp him up, I'm like, he really likes to wave. I'm going to ask him to wave right now because for some reason he loves waving.
He's friendly.
He's friendly. He's like, okay, I'll say hi. Or he really likes to whisper and spin and back up. So if I need to get his attention on me, I'm like, I'm going to do these things because he really enjoys doing these things. And then I got his focus right back on me. So I think there's just more benefits to trick training than I think a lot of people realize. It's not just like, I'm, going to teach my dog to spin. I think it helps you bond with your dog in a fun way. Obedience is so daunting nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Everyone expects your dog at like a year old to be absolute perfection, and that's not the case. That's not what's going to happen. Maslow's 3 years old and he is far from perfection. Yeah.
All mine are perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
Perfect in his own way.
Right. In their own way. And my friend Eric we were talking off the show, did a lot of agility training, a lot of agility judging, competitive, and it was the fact that, he really bonded with his dogs. I believe he likes dogs more than people. That's a whole nother thing.
I'm with you there.
Yeah. I was going to say he's in good company.
He's in good company.
Yeah.
I happen to like my cat more than people, but that's beside the point.
We just like animals.
But there's also, no, you're never going to get a dog to be, perfect or obedient, except Wiggin. He's not even perfect.
It's outside the expectation.
It's outside the expectation, but there was a point to my story. So we did recently visit my cousin and my cousin's ex-wife, who he's really good friends with. And she has a very talented, baby. Baby.
Oh, there he is.
Maslow.
He's being sweet. Look.
I know this never happens. I'm glad we caught it on camera.
Exactly. But his ex-wife has a dog that is very talented and a jumper and could be an amazing agility dog, trick dog, or even just an amazing pet. And she has no idea how to handle him in public at all. That was
the dogs are usually not the problem.
Yeah, no, the dogs
the owners.
And that's I definitely believe that I personally need to do something else with Digby because I've mentioned it before on the show. This is the first time I've had a dog in about 30 years.
Yeah.
Digby is my first dog in about 30 years, and he and I have been together now for a year. And then Wiggin came into my life.
Don't discount the progress you've made, though.
No, I'm not discounting the progress at all.
He's bilingual. He wasn't when you got him.
Right.
What I will say for people who have a difficult dog or a dog that, they think is difficult. I usually say record your training sessions. Like, I know that seems weird, but record them because like you mentioned, like praise any progress that you have. Like any progress is good progress. Dog training is slow, but having those recordings, let's say if he has a bad day, you can go back and be like, wow, look at what he used to be like,
Yeah.
And be like, wow, his bad days used to be like this. And now they're just like, oh, he's a little barky today.
Exactly.
Yeah. When I got him,
he was, yeah. but the dog training is, we were talking about agility. It is as much for the human as it is for the dog. I think anything that you do with the dog, to your point, Alyssa, anything that you do with your dog is better than doing nothing with your dog because it's better for you as the parent and the dog as not getting into trouble, not running out, not, whatever, not ending up getting hurt because you haven't trained yourself and your dog to have that communication between the two of you.
Right. And they'll be less curious, presumably, if you keep them engaged at some
Absolutely.
point.
Right.
Also,
Well,
Yeah.
and I find it motivates people. Like when you're like,
Mhm.
I taught my dog to roll over, then that gives them that much more motivation to work with them on like maybe their sits or their stays,
Mhm.
Right.
It's finding a balance. Cause like I said, like dog training should be fun because your energy travels down the leash. So if you're having fun, your dog is going to be having fun.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Your
sprinkle
energy
in the fun
travels
stuff.
down the leash.
Mhm.
Wow, that is a
I like
spicy
that.
little nugget of philosophy there. I
There
like
you
it.
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
So whatever you're feeling, it travels down the leash.
Well, so what makes I do have a question about this. We were talking about expenses a minute ago. What makes it so expensive with the agility? I mean, I assume training, of course, but is it the additional training? Is it equipment? Is it the traveling? What makes it so expensive?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of
I was
All
those
of
going to
the
things.
say,
above.
All of
yeah,
those
all
things.
of it makes it
All
really
of the
expensive.
above.
Yeah.
And we have been doing agility almost 2 years, and we are not yet at the point of competing. That's how intense the training can be.
Yeah.
So you're spending it depends on the area, like $100 or more every 6 weeks for this training, and we've been doing it for 2 years. I'd rather not do the math because I don't want to hurt myself
Right.
mentally and emotionally.
Let the tax person do that.
So there's that. And so it can just get expensive for that aspect. And then you have, like you mentioned, traveling fees if there's not a training area close to you. I so happen to be lucky where I go, they also hold competitions.
Oh,
So
cool. Yeah.
I'm a little I'm lucky in that aspect because that
Mhm.
that's not always the case. You have entrance fees for trials too, which can
Yes.
get expensive. Especially if someone pees in the ring. That's the most expensive pee he ever had.
Oh,
I hope it was a
Maslow.
good one.
Oh,
know.
Maslow.
Oh my goodness.
So you're almost like paying for them to fail too. You never know if they're gonna qualify or not. So I've had friends where their dogs have pooped in a trial, and I'm like, that's the most expensive poop they've ever had.
Oh my goodness. Like I'm so glad you found you found this to be your moment to
Yeah.
relieve yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, like of all moments. Hope it was a good one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this. I think listener, viewer, if you are considering doing this kind of training, we hope that you've learned something. You can contact Alyssa. She actually has a new podcast out called Corgi Confident, and you can find it on I believe you said Apple and Google.
And Spotify, correct.
And Spotify. Yeah. So she's one of our another Corgi podcaster. So check out Corgi Confident. She kind of lends some of her expertise there on top of these lovely training videos, Maslow The Trick Corgi on TikTok and Instagram. So you can learn more, and definitely don't hesitate to contact her if you need help. She's brilliant, and we're so grateful to have her as a confidant.
Yeah, my messages are always open, and I will mention I like being very candid about Maslow's training as well. So I like to show his imperfections, which a lot of people seem to enjoy.
Showing the pain.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah. Well,
misery
thank you so
loves
much.
company.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. We really appreciate your time today. And again, it's Corgi Confident Podcast. Check it out, or Maslow The Trick Corgi on Instagram or TikTok. And Alyssa, thanks again. I'm sure we'll have you on again soon. And thanks for coming back for this season.
Thanks for having me.
Give your baby some head scritches for us.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Well, did you learn some more today?
I did learn some more today.
Every time she's on, I feel like an expert. Like I'm getting like an education.
Yes. And yeah, I knew that the agility training was expensive. I didn't know it was that expensive.
Yeah.
And you could probably, if you're not going to compete, if you're not going to, like want that perfection, but just want that mental stimulation, you could probably do some things, easy things in your backyard with your dog. And it just, I notice that when I take the time, I'm a very impatient person. I mean, if you haven't figured that out yet from, 1.5 seasons of Corgi Town USA, I'm an incredibly impatient person, and having, a crazed Corgi does not do anything for my patience, really. And so that's why I've always been a cat person. They have their own lives. Doing even the simplest things with Digby in the yard. I'm blessed. I live on an acre of property, I won't lie. I have a big, huge backyard and plenty of things for him to do. But I think any place you can really try and do some sort of training with them. Look on YouTube.
Well, and go to Maslow the Trick Corgi. I mean, take
the time to go to
Take
Maslow the
to
Trick
look,
Corgi.
Check it out. You'll learn so much. You'll get some tips for your own training.
Right.
And then of course we'll have her on again too.
Absolutely.
So. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you and coming back for us. And we also want to mention too that we're all swagged out today.
We've
got our dichroic.
Okay,
I'm going to go over all the good stuff.
Okay.
We have our dichroic corgis, and that was when we had Tony Pacheco from last season. She made these adorable. They're made from dichroic glass, which was designed by NASA. So you want to check her
pretty.
out.
And no two are alike.
Yeah, they're all different. And then she also has her Shade Out DM pen.
Right.
So you can go to Shade Out DM, and they're an organization that spreads awareness for DM babies. And then we also have our Corgi Town USA podcast shirts, and they have Chuckles on the back of them with a microphone. So if you want to purchase one of our t-shirts, you will be supporting us as we do this wonderful work on the podcast and trying to raise awareness. But also a portion of the proceeds go to Help Bandits Band-Aid, which is an organization that helps out parents with their vet bills. So you can get that on our website, www.corgitownusa.com. Also, please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the interneticals.
Interneticals. I like that. I like that. I like that word. So when I was putting on my pin today, I was just thinking, because I am a Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout, much like the Marines. Once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout. I was putting on my little pin today, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we both had like a little green sash or a little, sash, and as we get little pins and stuff, just put them on our sash, like our Girl Scout
pieces of flair.
Pieces of flair, like our little Girl Scout badges. Were you a Girl Scout?
I was not.
Okay.
I have no skills. I have no usable skills.
So for all the Girl Scouts out there, and you know who you are, and the Boy Scouts, because they had their vests.
We gotta wrap it up. We're gonna lose our audience.
I know. The importance of those badges, and I know the importance of these pins. So
we'll have the Corgi badges, all the Corgi badges for all the organizations.
You could put those on a sash too and wear them proudly.
Well, that's Kat Cohen being extra for you today on this wonderful episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here for you every Thursday, all things Corgi. Signing out, Candy, Kat, Chuckles, Digby, and Wigan, Corgi Town USA.
Bye.